Well, I would say Benavidez, but he's too, that weight class is too high for him. So, where he's at now is great.
David, Crawford will fight you if he beats Canelo.
No, I wouldn't fight Crawford. I'm at 175.
And Terence Crawford.
No,
man. No, I ain't doing that fight. Maybe planning on vacating the belts?
No, we ain't gonna vacate the belts.
Coach Brian BoMac McIntyre created a stir following the bout when he was questioned about Turki Alalshikh proposing a fight between Terence Crawford and David Benavidez as the next move. BoMac firmly dismissed the suggestion, explaining that Crawford had no reason to take on that type of challenge. Now,
Well, we need to sit for a minute and then, just like I said, get back in the gym and do our thing.
Honest? Absolutely.
And he don't want none.
he made it clear that he has no interest in it. He also reminded supporters that he previously said a fight with Jaron Boots Ennis would do nothing for Canelo because Crawford operates on an entirely different level compared to Ennis.
Performance prove about the Ennis sparring. You guys were largely
I told you it don't make no difference. Didn't I say it? I said that don't mean shit. I don't give a damn about that.
Yeah.
I said that, didn't I?
Yeah,
In one of those interviews, I said that. Don't mean shit. Because he's no Bud Crawford. I'm not taking nothing from Ennis, Boozy, them my guys. Shit, but bringing in that, which is good for Canelo, but it didn't do no good in the fight.
The entire Benavidez situation began when Alalshikh, a major figure in Saudi boxing, posted on social media only hours after Crawford's massive victory. He congratulated Terence "Bud" Crawford on his historic achievement and for becoming undisputed champion at super middleweight, making him the first fighter to hold undisputed titles in 3 weight classes. He also thanked Saul Alvarez Canelo for delivering a great event. Then he raised a question that immediately sparked intense discussion about a possible showdown, asking whether David Benavidez could still make 168 pounds. Greg Hackett later addressed the sudden talk of Crawford facing Benavidez, explaining that no official decision had been made about any prior matchup and suggesting that the push felt motivated more by financial gain and attention than by competitive balance. Hackett added that Crawford did not need Benavidez to secure his position and warned that cutting back down to 168 after competing at 175 could take a serious toll on Benavidez physically.
Try to test his limits, and he think the money is going to keep getting him out there. That fight is pointless. The fight is pointless because nobody ever talked about that fight until now. And then I don't feel like Bud needs a Benavidez. And then that would mean Benavidez would have to go into a different body and bring himself back down to 68 when he's already getting settled in at 175.
Hackett continued by explaining that the back and forth between Crawford and Benavidez was largely exaggerated. In his view, Turki Alalshikh was using the situation to highlight his promotional influence. However, he acknowledged that the matchup could still be compelling if it developed for genuine competitive reasons rather than as a publicity move.
He has had some tough tasks in front of him that he want to conquer before even talking like that. I don't even think he want to talk like that because there's really no point. He wanted the Canelo fight because Canelo was the man at 68. He was at 68. I don't think he cared about fighting Bud, and I don't think Bud cared about fighting Benavidez. That's just Turkey trying to pull rank. So Turkey trying to show he got a golden arm.
Another issue many fans raised was whether Crawford could realistically continue moving up in weight. Numerous analysts pointed out that he was already a champion across 4 divisions, although some disputed that claim. Boxing commentator and YouTube analyst show Biz the Adult frequently questioned whether Crawford's record justified the level of praise he received. Critics have long argued that he had not consistently faced elite opposition or fully tested himself against the very best in the sport.
Is top 4 greatest fighters of all time. Do you understand how improbable this is? I thought Bud had no chance. I lost 20 grand. Not only is Terence Crawford on my Mount Rushmore, like I've said, if he were to win, because the probability of him winning against all the odds, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see how at all.
The narrative often overlooked the positive aspects of this landmark, bout which saw one of the sport's most celebrated champions move up in weight and still come apart under pressure. Crawford managed to force even his strongest critics to reconsider the magnitude of what he accomplished. In the hours that followed, the fight showbiz documented the shift in opinion on video, ensuring that the moment and its impact would not be forgotten.
He put together. That guy, he can face anybody in history and be a problem. Him right there. Not only that, I think this cements the fact that everybody avoided him. This right here answers everything. Not only is Terence Bud Crawford on my Mount Rushmore, but everybody avoided him. And that sheds more light on how he beat Errol Spence.
He became the first male boxer to capture all 4 major titles in 3 different divisions. And he had to climb 2 weight classes to 168 pounds to secure every belt there, a feat no one else has achieved. While he was not officially an undisputed champion in 4 separate divisions, his accomplishments were still extraordinary and set him apart from the rest. Many were surprised when Canelo Alvarez spoke openly at the press conference following his majority decision defeat to Terence Crawford, choosing not to dodge the moment, but instead giving Crawford credit and admitting that he was the better fighter.
Compare and contrast the fight between yourself and Floyd Mayweather Jr. and tonight's bout with Terence Bud Crawford, if you can.
No, I think Crawford is way better than Floyd Mayweather.
Veteran boxing journalist Dan Rafael shared his perspective on the matchup between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. Drawing on decades of experience covering the sport, he explained that what impressed him most was Crawford's command of the fight in the closing rounds. Rafael noted that Canelo appeared to have the advantage early on, taking the opening rounds before the momentum shifted.
Great job. I thought it was close. I had Canelo ahead in the early going, but I thought Crawford did an amazing job closing that fight down in the last few rounds, where he really started to back the supposed bigger guy up, although for me, they looked about the same size. But that was a brilliant...
Rafael further reinforced Crawford's legacy by stressing the historical weight of the victory. He explained that although Crawford may not have initially pushed for the bout, it was a challenge he had long hoped for and invested significant effort to secure. Rafael also pointed out that Crawford rarely received opportunities to face naturally bigger opponents, since many doubted such matchups could realistically be arranged.
He dreamt this fight. He willed it to happen. A lot of people, not me, but a lot of people laughed at him, said, forget about it. No chance against a bigger guy like that. Canelo, because everybody who has ever read me, followed me, listened to me knows I love Canelo. I think he's one of the greats of all time. I think you can make a really good argument that he's the greatest Mexican of all time, even more than Chavez. That said, he is in decline. He's been in decline for the last few years. He hasn't been what we've seen him at his best since he beat Caleb Plant. You know, that Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Sanders time frame. And, you know, even though he's winning fights, you know, the knockouts haven't happened. He's gotten tired in the later part of the fights. And it's just common. It's the oldest saying in boxing, father time is on the...
Respected boxing journalist and ringside analyst Sean Zittel spoke about Terence Crawford's rising profile following his victory over Canelo Alvarez. Zittel explained that he has recognized Crawford's talent for many years and even ranked him as the top pound-for-pound fighter back in 2017. Yet he admitted that he had never previously placed Crawford alongside the absolute legends of the sport.
Crawford, #1 pound for pound back in 2017. I always acknowledged him as the best counterpuncher in the game, one of the great counterpunchers. But I didn't see him as Sugar Ray Leonard, Floyd Mayweather, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson. I didn't see him as that. I saw him as the tier of greats right below that. Oscar, Shane, Mike McCallum, guys like that. And it turns out, no, he's with the best of the best.
Zittel then commented on Crawford's technical performance against Canelo. He observed that Crawford absorbed Canelo's power effortlessly and displayed a level of punch resistance rarely seen in the division. Zittel noted that Canelo lost his rhythm during the bout, while Crawford opened the third and fourth rounds with sharp jabs and gradually took control to dominate the fight.
Effect on Crawford, I know Crawford felt it, but he had good punch resistance. He came up in weight beautifully, and then as time went on, his jab and his length, it's around that third and fourth round, really started to give Canelo fits. And then #1, his bread and butter, his gift. Yes, he's got great tactics, great distance control, efficient footwork. He doesn't, and he took the air out of the ball when he wanted to in this.
Before the fight even began, it was clear that Canelo Alvarez planned to use his size, strength, and experience to his advantage. Fans were intrigued by the fact that he had been a champion before and knew how to handle pressure despite competing at super middleweight. After his loss to Terence, Crawford Canelo addressed his supporters on Instagram without complaints. He reflected calmly on his future, celebrated his team's achievements, acknowledged the sacrifices made for them, and expressed gratitude to family and friends who had supported him through everything. He specifically praised his wife Fernanda for standing by him, writing that he was proud of all he had accomplished, willing to learn from defeat, and thankful for the constant encouragement from loved ones. Meanwhile, the victorious Terence Crawford displayed a rare moment of agitation during a press conference following the historic fight. He reacted angrily to a reporter who had mocked him in front of cameras, showing that this encounter was more than just a match, it was a confrontation with the narrative the media had been portraying about him for years.
A 3-time undisputed champion, the first ever in the 2, 3, or 4 belt era, and you became the second undisputed champion in 3 weight classes when there was only one champion back in 1938 with Henry Armstrong. That's a lot of stuff.
You hear that? You hear that?
Years ago, boxing analysts and journalists claimed he was unremarkable, lacked drawing power, and was insignificant. Crawford addressed these criticisms loudly at the press conference, now that he is at the pinnacle of the sport, proving to everyone that their doubts were completely unfounded.
All of it. It all goes hand in hand.
Can you describe what it all means to you to have, you just made like a whole resume of stuff tonight.
It means a lot to me because, you know, anybody could be a nobody, like I said, you know, and that's all they say I've been fighting is nobodies. So what can they say now?
When Canelo, the established champion, stepped in to defend his title, everything was at stake. It wasn't just the belts, but his reputation as well. A loss would mean giving up the status and recognition that had defined him. In the end, Crawford secured a unanimous decision victory and became the undisputed top middleweight champion. This defeat cost Canelo all his belts in the division and diminished his standing as the undisputed king in the eyes of history. Joe Pitaya, the Australian cruiserweight champion, immediately commented on the fight, showing clear respect. He acknowledged that Crawford earned the victory and said the outcome was obvious.
Listen, though, too smart. Like, what a technician.
Are you shocked or not?
Not at all. Not at all. That's how I pictured the fight going. So I'll picture the fight going that way. Man, impressive. You know what I mean? Coming up from all those weight divisions. Hit and don't get hit. That's the aim of the game. Yeah. Puts him differently in their list, but he's in everyone's list. You know what I mean? He's deserved his respect. He's one of the greats. And that Crawford name, that last name, that's written down in history. So, good on him.
He went on to discuss Crawford's rising legacy, noting that while it is still early, his name is now firmly recognized among the all-time greats of boxing. Pitaya added that Crawford has earned widespread respect within the sport and that his surname has become a permanent part of boxing history.
I was hoping that there was more action coming from Canelo. You know, I'm used to Canelo fighting that way all the time. You know, he tried his best. You know, he always has trouble against movers. I was really expecting them to be more punches, more movement by Canelo. Yeah, I mean, it was a situation where Terence Crawford's a tactician and he throws combinations and he moves. And then, if you try and exchange with him, he's gone already. So you got to be fast. You got to punch him when he's punching you.
Beating Canelo was never easy and required significant power to make an impact. Early exchanges showed that clean shots, especially to the body, or getting close to Crawford, could cause real damage. When asked about Terence Crawford's stunning win over Canelo Alvarez, former heavyweight champion Lennox Lewis gave a direct opinion. Lewis praised the fight overall, but felt Alvarez didn't give his full effort. He expected the Mexican star to throw more punches and display quicker movement. Alvarez has historically struggled against smooth and adaptable fighters like Crawford.
About many times, and I thought that this time he just boxed like he always boxes. And then I felt he couldn't really do nothing against Terence Crawford because Terence Crawford was too quick, too elusive. You know, anybody would find trouble with him, but Canelo couldn't find him. For Canelo to win a round, I say he won about 3 rounds in that fight. I was actually amazed at the way how Terence Crawford moved and, you know, never got hit. And threw combinations because that's what you're supposed to do, throw combinations. So he threw combinations. He wasn't trying to knock out Canelo, but he definitely was throwing a lot of punches.
Here is what Lennox Lewis said following Canelo Alvarez's defeat to Terence Crawford. He explained that he had observed Canelo's behavior in the past, and that this fight reflected his usual approach, but Crawford's style demanded more. Lewis noted that Canelo struggled to assert himself because Crawford's defense and reflexes were so sharp that landing clean punches and gaining control of the match was extremely difficult.
It's the morning after the big fight. Crawford Canelo. Shout outs to Crawford. You did it, boy. You did it. For those who still aren't quite sure what they witnessed last night, I'm going to let you know that you witnessed what is called a notorious boxing clinic. This is everything done right.
Most observers agreed that it was Canelo's timing, speed, and ring intelligence, not raw power, that led to his loss. Crawford made Canelo miss, repeatedly putting him at a disadvantage and keeping control of the fight. While Canelo landed some heavy punches, many connected only when Crawford allowed himself to be close. Crawford effectively neutralized them. Canelo was physically ideal for his division. Former unified welterweight champion Keith Thurman described Crawford's showing against Canelo Alvarez as a masterclass in boxing. He emphasized that it was more than just a victory, highlighting Crawford's fundamentals, timing, and composure at the highest level. Few expected Crawford at super middleweight to handle Canelo's speed and power. Yet he did, managing the fight from start to finish, a performance Thurman highly praised.
This was a notorious hit and don't get hit. That's boxing 101, people. It's actually the definition of boxing. For those who don't know the definition of boxing, it's to hit and not get hit. It's almost like a game of tag, to simplify it for you folks. All right? And yes, Crawford was tagging him. Not just with the jab, moving, but he was able to do another key factor, which is